Islam family, it's your brother Cool. Happy holy day on this so-called Christian calendar date. What's the so-called date today? I believe it's the 23rd February 2018, right? Um, so I recently been getting, having a couple of bills with Moors about naturalization, and I felt the need to make this particular video to address that issue of naturalization. Now, I'm not one to bash on my other brothers and sisters, my other Moorish brothers and sisters, on how they conduct themselves, on how they operate in terms of their own internal affairs within their own organizations. I'm not one to do that, um, but I will give my um, knowledge, you know what I'm saying, what I know based on what I've studied on naturalization and the implementation of what it means, and also the process, because there's a process that takes place with naturalization. I don't know if a lot of Moors are aware of it or not. So, I took the liberty of going, not only getting interpretation from like Black's Law, but also getting an interpretation directly from the um, Washington State Department of Health and Services. You know what I'm saying? Getting their direct interpretation, as well as the United States, as well as the United States Immigration Services, if I'm saying that correctly. But just to bring more clarity on what it means when you talk about naturalization, because in a nutshell, naturalization is adoption. But first of all, we're going to see what naturalization is and who it applies to. Okay? Naturalization, according to Washington State Department of Social Health and Services, naturalization is the process by which U.S. citizenship is given to a legal immigrant after he or she fulfills the requirements established by the Immigration and Nationality Act. And you can find that act codified in United States Code Title 8. All right? United States Code Title 8. And if you want to go directly into the definition of a national, that will be United States Code Title 8, um, subsection 22. Subsection 22, okay, is what you're looking for. That's where it defines, pretty much, that's where it defines what a citizen and a non-citizen national is. And understand that United States citizenship, where we at? U.S. citizenship is a nationality. It's a corporate nationality, however. It's not an organic nationality, because this is not even dealing with the United States of America, right? We're not dealing with American citizenship. We're dealing with United States citizenship. And United States citizenship wasn't on and popping until 1871, okay? 1871. So if you're claiming to be a U.S. citizenship, you're claiming to be a type of citizenship that didn't come into play or that wasn't in existence until 1871, Gregorian calendar. All right, but let's keep on going. So who is it referencing to? The process by which U.S. citizenship is given to a legal immigrant, okay, after he or she fulfills the requirements established by the Immigration and Nationality Act. Now, how can you claim to be indigenous and a legal immigrant at the same time? That's where the confusion for me comes into place when you're talking about nationalization and naturalization, because naturalization is for legal immigrants. So are you saying, or is the implementation when you make a statement like us as Moors we need to naturalize, are you, and I'm not pointing out anyone, I'm just saying whoever is making these statements or is moving in this direction, it's a question I'm asking. Are you implementing, and I don't even know if I'm using the correct word for what I'm trying to say, but are you, like, what are you trying to say? Are you trying to say that we're legal immigrants as indigenous peoples? So as indigenous peoples who are from this landmass originally, that we are legal immigrants. So before we can go into that, let's figure out what an immigrant is. But understand now, when you're talking about naturalization, that's a process by which U.S. citizenship is given to a legal immigrant. So if you identify as a legal immigrant, how can you be indigenous? But okay, let's go. Nationalization. What is nationalization? Nationalization is to bring under the ownership or control of a nation as industries and land. Okay? Drastic difference between naturalization and nationalization. You see, because when you're dealing with nationalization, it's dealing with bringing under the ownership or control of a nation, dealing with industries and land. You know, trust is a part of industries because that's dealing with economics. If your economics is good, my economics is good, and we're in a flourishing society, then the society is going to flourish because we're flourishing. You see? So that's what nationality has to deal with. It's about ownership. It's about taking things and bringing it back underneath that umbrella of the nation. What nation? The Moorish nation. And the Moorish nation consists of many, I would say, clans, tribes, organizations, which in international law would be defined as states. Okay? Because in international law, a state is a person. We're talking about international law here. Okay? So, because international law is dealing with nations. So if you're talking about international law, it can't just be you by yourself. International law is not for individuals. International law is for nations, collective people, jural societies, body politics, all right, who are underneath the umbrella, and that umbrella there underneath is what you would call a person, and that person has an organization name, Moorish Science Temple of America, like for my example, Sunel Shi Amru Republic, you know what I'm saying? As a for black in essence for black states, the NAACP is considered a state because that's an organization. They have their own bylaws, laws, rules and bylaws, how they organize, what they do, how they do what they do, when they do it. You know what I'm saying? So that's how a state functions. So that's what we're dealing with when we're talking about nationalization. It's talking about bringing things under control or ownership of the nation. Organically. We're not talking about legal immigrants. Because I'm already out. My family comes from this landmass known as America. I don't come from Africa. My family comes right here from America. Haiti, or the Chiragua province to be exact, is what I call Port-au-Prince. Okay? And then if you want to go back further than that, we migrated from South America. Understanding my studies, according to today, the oldest civilization in the Americas is the Chico Notore tribe in South America, which dates back 2600 BCE. I did a PowerPoint presentation on this called Ancient America, called Who Came Before the Olmecs. You know what I'm saying? Because the Olmecs, I've been declared to be around, that was around 1500 BC, which would be about, what, like 3,500 years. This civilization is dating back 5,000 years. All right, around the same time Mesopotamia, so-called Kemet was over there in what they call Egypt, although we understand that this is ancient Egypt right here in America. They're one and the same. Okay? So understanding that, we gotta see how things match up. You see what I'm saying? So I know that, and if you look at the carvings of the walls of the Corral Supe in Peru, you'll see carvings of melanated people, big lips, broad nose, locks coming out the back with the fez on. Okay? So that just to give you an inclination of the history when you know yourself and where you come from. So my family comes from America. No ifs, ands, or doubts about it. We didn't come here from Africa. No disrespect to my African cousins. Those are my cousins. That's still family. But their inheritance is in Africa, or what you would so-called call Africa. My inheritance is in America, the Maghrib, Al-Aqsa. Alright? Or the, according to the treaty, they will call it the Estados um, Estados Americanos, all right, the American states. So, big difference between naturalization and nationalization. Nationalization is talking about ownership and control over industries and land. Naturalization is dealing with U.S. citizenship, which is given to legal immigrants based upon whether they fulfill the requirements. Now, I didn't list the requirements on the board, but just to give you overall basis, the requirements would be that you'd have to set up a ceremony where you go before the marshal, okay? And there's a big ceremony where you'll have witnesses, um, and you'll have to take an oath in front of the marshal, okay? That you pledge, that you relinquish all allegiance to any foreign state, sovereign, princes, nations, etc., etc. All right. So in order to naturalize, you got to relinquish your allegiance to your original government in order to naturalize. Okay, if you are a legal immigrant. So you got to relinquish something in order to naturalize. Now, let me ask you. I was born here. I never had to take an oath before the U.S. Marshal to where they, signed and recorded that into the into the system. And now I'm part of America. I'm an American citizen. I didn't have to do all that because my family was already from here. You didn't have to do all that either if you was already born here. You didn't have to have no ceremony of oath and amnesty where you're going before the U.S. Marshal to pledge your allegiance and relinquishing your original allegiance to your original government. So that lets you know that if you haven't gone through that process, one, you're not a legal immigrant, and two, you still never relinquished your allegiance to your original government. So therefore, there is no need for expatriation. If you naturalize, then you will need expatriation, because then you will have officially left your government. Other than that, if we was born here like me and you never took this oath, because you have rights here that predate 1871, right? Since you have rights here in a way of life that predates 1871, then there's no need for you to take an oath. You've already been here living under your own cultural laws and tribal systems, etc., etc., etc. So you don't need to get permission or citizenship as a legal immigrant. You're already indigenous here. So you don't need to take an oath. And you sure as hell don't need to relinquish your allegiance to your original government that was in existence before 1871. Let me just put 1871 right here. And that's called the Organic Act of the District of Columbia. That's a congressional record document. So this is the birth date. This is the birth date of the U.S. of the United States. Okay? Or I should say the birth date of the second shelf. Or no, is this the second shelf? No, I think this is like the third or fourth shelf. These dudes have been bankrupting over and over again. So this ain't like just one or two bankrupts. This is like 7, 8, 9, 10 bankrupts that they just went bankrupt, flipped it again. Bankrupt, flipped it again. Bankrupt, flipped it again. Like this ain't no like one time bankrupt and where they're done. Nah, man, the U.S. is buried, yo. They are buried. And if you're a part of them, you're going to be buried with them, man. Get off that motherfucking Titanic. I'm telling you, come back home because you never left. So all you got to do is just declare who you are, boom, come back home. You never took an oath before the U.S. Marshal to release or relinquish your allegiance to your sovereign country. That's foreign to the United States. Because once again, the United States, 1871. That's when that came into play, District of Columbia. Okay? Understand that. Understand that. Understand that. Because remember, so-called Kingdom of Morocco didn't come into existence until 1956. The Treaty of Peace and Friendship is dated 1786. 1786. So what Morocco are they talking about? Because at that time there was no kingdom of Morocco. Come on now. Come on now. It's about the dates. It's about the dates. So, understanding the dynamics, right? So now, let's go right into here. Immigrant. What's an immigrant? Immigrant are people who come from one country to live permanently in a foreign one. I'm going to read that one more time, so I'll let it sink in. Immigrant are people who come from one country to live permanently in a foreign one. So if you are naturalizing, you are now going from one country to live permanently in a foreign country. Foreign meaning it's the opposite of you. There's no relation. It's like foreign. You and that don't get along. Y'all can't coexist. Foreign. Foreign. You know when you get sick, the body pushes out all foreign objects? All things foreign, it goes, get out. Out. The door's that way. You know what I'm saying? So that's what an immigrant is. Remember, naturalization is for who? Legal immigrants. Let me erase this thing here. I don't want it to get too confusing. But yeah, read up on that. Organic Act of 1871, District of Columbia. All right. So, immigrant are people who are coming from one country to live permanently in a foreign country. All right. So that means that in order to naturalize, you would have to leave your original country of citizenship to become a member of a foreign country that you plan on being there permanently. So you plan on permanently relinquishing your allegiance to your mother country or your mother state or your mother nation. Nationality is the order of the day, y'all. As long as you're not putting anything on the side. Okay. You know what I'm saying? So once again, what's your country of citizenship? Because your original country of citizenship goes way back before 1492. I'll tell you that much. So, because 1492 was actually the year when we fell. That's when everything shifted. And the switch happened from the ancient world to the modern world that we see today, where it's a bunch of black Negro colors rather than Moors, Moorish Americans, Moors, Americans, Almaricanos, people with their national culture intact, as if no colonization ever happened. All right. So remember now, immigrant, people coming from one country to live permanently in a foreign one. So what's a legal immigrant? A legal immigrant is an immigrant that has been granted official permission to live permanently in a foreign country. So obviously, if that's the case, you already know what a illegal immigrant is, one who has not been granted official permission to live permanently in a foreign country. Okay? So once again, that goes with permission, so you need to be given permission to come in, right? So once again, I ask you, do you think we need to naturalize, or do you think we need to nationalize and bring things underneath the ownership or control of our nation? You tell me. And like I said, in order to naturalize, that means you got to relinquish citizenship. So if you have to relinquish citizenship, that means you have something to relinquish, right? Even if today you classify yourself as black, African, Negro colored, you never went before the U.S. Marshal and took an oath of amnesty to relinquish your original citizenship. So that means even though you're not aware of it, you still have your Moorish citizenship. You're just not aware of it. And that's where expatriation and citizenship comes into play, where it states that the only way that Moors can lose their nationality is to fall under the protections um, of a country that has treaty relations with the Moorish Empire. So the United States has a treaty with Morocco, aka the Moorish Empire. Not the Moorish Kingdom, not the Kingdom of Morocco, the Moorish Empire. So if that's the only way we could lose our nationality, then we just gotta stop acting like that. Go back to the ways and thoughts of our ancestors. Declare who we are so that it's made thoroughly clear that we are not Negro, blacks, and coloreds. We're not Second Amendment citizens. We're not chattel property. And then, once you declare that and make that thoroughly clear, you can move forward as yourself because you've always been here. Because you don't need to take an oath of amnesty. Because if you were to do that, that means you would relinquish your natural citizenship, which means you still have your natural citizenship. You just haven't made it thoroughly clear. And when I say you haven't made it thoroughly clear, that is what declare means. Declare. Declare. D means thoroughly clear, or clare means clear. I'm saying D means to make. To make. Clare, clear. So when you declare your nationality, you're making something clear. What are you making clear? You're making clear that you're not a U.S. citizenship. Your ancestry and your citizenship to your mother country predates 1871. Predates 1781 for that matter. Predates 1492. Predates 711. Okay? Once again, if you don't know that, then you're going to get caught up in the state, which is really just a state of mind. Okay? Once again, if you're not a legal immigrant, then I don't think naturalization, if you ask my opinion, I don't think naturalization is the way to go. Now, we talk about people coming from one country to live permanently in another country, to live in a foreign one. What's a country? A country, make sure I ain't blocking it. A country is a nation with its own government occupying a territory. Now, I'm going to go in on this definition, but as far as occupying, I'm going to leave that for the next video, because that's a whole conversation on its own. This term right here, occupy. Occupying. We're going to get into this. I'm going to need a whole separate video just for this word right here. All right? But country, a nation with its own government occupying a territory. Territory means, or etymology means terra, which means earth. Terra, earth. So a nation, we all know a nation means people. So does state, so does country. Country means people. A nation, people, with its own government occupying earth, or occupying a part of the earth. All right? Now, occupying in itself means to hold, in possession, in tenure. Okay? So it means to hold or possess. So a nation or a people with its own government holding or possessing a piece of earth. Okay? Now, government. I told you, I'm going to leave, that's as much as I'm going to go on occupying. That's going to be for the next video. Government, however, this is an important term. What is government? We talk all day long about government. Do you understand what government is? What is government? We have an idea of what government looks like, but in terms of the understanding or the breakdown of its definition, what is government? A lot of people say govern means, govern, control, ment means mind, to control the mind. Yes, but I'm talking about in terms of law. What is government? Because you see how religion has one meaning here, and then it has another meaning in terms of law. All right? So, what is government? What is government? Yeah. I was good, but you close the door. You're cool. It's all right. I'm almost done with it. It's all right. Government. So what is government? Government is the regulation. See if I'm blocking it. Government is the regulation, restraint, supervision, control, which is exercised upon the members of a jural society. So what would that mean? That would mean government are like your bylaws, your constitution, any rules you got put in place to what? Regulate, restrain sometimes if the behavior is going to be detrimental, supervise, and control. What? Or exercise those laws upon the members because they choose to be a part of that society, so therefore they choose to be, you know what I'm saying, held accountable to those laws that are in place for whatever organization you choose to be a part of. Because every organization got their own laws. So that's government. Government ain't like a building and people. Government is a manual set in place that's exercised upon the members who are part of that. So for like the Jewish community, they got a government. They have a relationship. They all go in fellowship in the synagogue. They all have a certain clothes style they wear. They have their headdress. They have their diet. They have the way they do commerce. Government. Government is neutral. It's not man. It's not woman. It's not nothing. Government is a action. It's something put in place for people to follow, like an instruction manual. When you do this, I want you to do that, then do this, then get that done, then get that done. Once you do all these things, this is what you have. Manual, how to do something. That's what government is. So stop talking about our federal government, our government, the United States government. What are you talking about? You talk about if you're part of the U.S., then they got certain rules that will regulate, restrain, supervise, and control you. And then they can what? Exercise those regulations, restraints, supervisions, policies, and controls on you. And they're put in terms of policies, ordinances, and codes. Mm-hmm. None of them are called laws. They're really just called agreements.
Because you with your community.
Yeah, because you chose to agree to be a member of that. So, just to bring it back home again, if you are indigenous to this land and you talking about naturalization, just know that naturalization is the process by which U.S. citizenship is given to a legal immigrant. So how can you be indigenous and a legal immigrant at the same time? It doesn't work that way. Now, if I was born in, let's say, Senegal, or if I was born in like Morocco, you know what I'm saying? Then, as a foreign national, I'm not born here. So at that point, I'm an immigrant because I have allegiance to another government before I came to the United States. So that means in order to become a member, I gotta let go of something that I already have. So I gotta relinquish my citizenship or my allegiance to my mother country in order to become a member. Because in their eyes, I'm an immigrant. I'm a legal immigrant. So they got to give me permission to live here. Because remember, what's an immigrant? Immigrants are people who come from one country to live permanently in a foreign one. Foreign. That means that's not your original one. So if you naturalize, you must be an immigrant and you must be foreign to America. And that's all I got to say on that. Think on that one, family. Peace.